What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Division 2 video on the Jack of All Trades channel. We've been getting into Countdown, talking about Countdown in general, then I dropped some gameplay for this build specifically, and now we're going to get into the build guide, going over all the pieces so you can put this together yourself. We're calling it the Crimson Angel because we're all red, but we're also super tanky, and we got a lot going on with this setup. And I think Crimson Angel is an appropriate name, and it sounds cool. So, let's get into the build classification so you can get an idea of what we're working with here. This is a Countdown-specific build. I made it particularly for that purpose. It's handcrafted for Countdown, and I can't imagine using this anywhere else. It's really tailored for the Countdown environment, like we talked about in how to make the ideal Countdown build video, so that's what we're using it for. The build type, purpose, and playstyle kind of all come together here with how the build is put together. The idea that I had behind this is that we're trying to be a tanky DPS build. I want to be able to jump into Countdown, run around, do a bunch of damage, contribute to the objective, contribute to the team, without having to worry about getting downed and taking a lot of damage. And this is where the build comes into play. So it's a DPS, but it has survivability. We've got some healing going on, that's how we're getting it, and staying all red. And the pieces that make it up are a little bit rare. We have an improvised piece that is going to be a little tough for some people to get. And then we have a somewhat unicorn chest piece, because we need all the attributes and the talent to come proper on the chest piece, because we're rolling the core away from its native core. So it could be, took me a while to farm for it. You get a couple options with the rolls though, so it's not terrible. Let's get into the game and look at the build. Alright, so let's take a look at the setup here. Crimson Angel, we're running all red. We got red cores everywhere. We're running a striker, 4-piece with the backpack to get a lot of damage. And then the other thing that we're really leaning on is protection from elites that I've been hyping up a lot for Countdown. So first you have to understand how survivability works in this game. It's not about having blues, it's actually about having very high sustain and regen to your armor. Blues will allow you to take more damage before you down, but if you don't have any heals, you're eventually gonna down. With the way we're setting it up here, it's kind of like with weight, how it's very simply cals in, cals out. Your survivability is just damage in, damage out, or healing, right? So as long as our rate of healing is faster than our rate of taking in damage, we'll be invincible and we won't be able to die. With blues, you have a higher leeway that you can play with. If you have a negative ratio of damage in to damage out, and you're slowly taking cumulative damage, the blues will give you more breathing room and will delay the time until you inevitably die. But it won't help you be tankier in the sense that you have that sustainability and that survivability. So adding blues onto this build, for example, would help in terms of if you get into a situation where you're taking so much damage that you can't out-heal it, you'll survive a little bit longer. But for the way it's set up, most of the cases, we're actually just healing faster than they can damage us, and we just don't down. We don't need blues, because even with our little 726k armor, we don't even have 1,000,000 armor. We got no blues. We're just healing so fast and taking in so little damage because of our PFE that you just can't get down. You'll see that in the gameplay. Unless you're facing off against, like, 3 chunkies or, like, a whole squad of elites, and your healing goes down, that's what you gotta pay attention to, is make sure your both healing skills are up. That's what's giving you that survivability. If those are up and you're standing in your cloud from your Seeker mine, you're just not going to die. You're healing so fast. And that's really what's going on at the core of this build. So we have that healing, and then we're pushing as much damage in that package as we can. So the core pieces for that are giving us the that setup is this unicorn chest. We're running R&K because it comes with incoming repairs. And incoming repairs is a separate stat, so it scales well with repair skills. You usually would ideally have a 1-to-1 ratio between repair skills and incoming repairs because they multiply against each other. Whereas if you have like 100% repair skills and you add another 20% repair skills, you're getting diminishing returns. So you're not actually getting the 20%. So instead of getting diminishing returns on your repair skills, you want to also spec into incoming repairs if you're healing yourself so that you get higher value. And you keeping a 1-to-1 ratio between repair skills and incoming repairs will give you a lot more heals than if you just went for one or the other. So the incoming repairs from the brand set of R&K is super powerful. And then we have protection from elites on our mods, which we'll get into, but the talent here, kinetic momentum, is what's giving us 60% repair skills. So that's where the vast majority of our repair skills is coming from to make our skills very effective. And then we have the incoming. I'm not running repair skills anywhere else. I just have another repair skills roll on this chest. So that's all the repair skills right there. It's 60 plus the 20, 80, and then we're getting another 20 incoming repairs. Everything else is all red. So the other thing going on, we talked a lot about protection from elites. We're running protection from elites on all our mod slots, chest, bag, mask, and then any one of these three pieces, whatever you have as an improvised piece, all red with crits. We're using the improvised piece to get even more protection from elites. The rest of our protection from elites comes from the survivalist specialization over here. And that's 10% protection from elites from there. And we're also taking advantage of this specialization for the Mender Seeker Mine. But before we get into the skills, let's finish looking at the pieces and the rolls. So we got our repair skills coming from the talent, kinetic momentum. That'll build up as you have your skills out, so we pretty much have it up all the time at its max stack. 60% repair skills. We're running crits everywhere. So on all our red pieces, run whatever crits you need so that you get to around 60% chance. And then a full red improvised piece for more protection from elites. So stat-wise, I'm at 58 chance, 105 damage, and this is that 60% protection from elites. So how does that come into play with the healing, with the skills? Okay. The other thing that's going on too, that I discovered from my testing, is not only do you not need blues to be tanky, you also don't need skill tiers to have effective skills. If you look at the Fixer Drone, for example, so both our skills are tier 0. And we're choosing to just spec directly into repair skills and incoming instead of using a core attribute to get our skill tiers up. If you look at this here, okay, going up in a skill tier doesn't just make the skill categorically better, it tells you specifically what it does, and each skill tier only gives you 20% armor repair and 70% health. They're never shooting down our Fixer Drone, so health is pretty much useless, and the way that repair skills versus the armor repair from the skill tier scale, I've discovered that it's actually way more effective to keep your red cores and then just spec directly into repair skills. You can kind of brute force an effective healing skill. We don't need tier 6, we just need a bunch of skill repair. Same sort of story with the Seeker Mine. Gives you healing and radius. Radius would be kind of cool, I guess, but for the most part, we just need those heals. We don't need to sacrifice a core attribute to get 20% healing and 5% radius. I want that 15% damage, and that's what we're doing with this setup. We got some mods, right? Survivalist comes with the 15% max health mod for the Seeker Mine and a 15% healing mod, so makes sense with the setup. And then run whatever best mods you can hopefully with an armor repair one for a little extra boost on the fixer drone. And so this is all synergizing really, really nicely and keeping our damage quite high because we have strikers with the backpack. We're running 6 red cores and we have almost 60% chance and more than doubled on our crits, 105% on our crit damage. It's a really, really great setup. And from the gameplay you can see, we're face tanking with all reds, no problem. When it comes to the weapons here, the only important one is your primary, really. It's nice to have a secondary that's an assault rifle, so you can hit some long distance targets if you want to swap to that. Primary, running an SMG, we're running specifically the Banshee SMG with fast hands. This is going to be your highest sustained damage weapon almost in the game, bar a couple exceptions. It actually does significantly more sustained damage than the Ouroboros. So we're opting to actually not use an exotic and go with the Banshee fast hands on this setup. And I got a cheap amount of expertise on it because why not? 12% is really easy. We're running crit chance mods and extended mag as usual for our primary. Secondary doesn't really matter. Pistol doesn't really matter either. You could run Busy Little Bee if you want to swap to it, get a little more damage. You can run an Orbit. You could run something with Sledgehammer if you want. Usually when I'm playing, I'm taking a couple weapons with me that aren't leveled up. Like if you see like Blue Screen, for example, is only at rank 2. You'll get passive XP from just having them on your loadout, and you're pretty much maining the Banshee anyway. So main your gun, use your other slots to level something up while you're playing. Alright, this was a surprisingly short video, deceivingly simple, perhaps. I'm not going to get too deep into variants at all, actually, because I have a couple other variants that are enough their own sort of build that I'm going to make a separate video for. But this will give you a really good base to understand mechanics of healing and of damage and tankiness and protection from elites, how that all synergizes together. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover in this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Enjoy.